not sure if this next bit is supposed to be a stealth section, but we can beat up the guards without too many problems. This part of the map is mostly empty and consists of walkways and elevators, no doubt the most cheaply made area in the game. It feels more like an early 3D JRPG dungeon. Just like the area that came before it, the sound design sells this place amazingly well. There's what I think is supposed to be a navigation puzzle, but it really isn't, and we're now within earshot of General Keck and the Dom's High Priest.
You need me just as much as I need you, Your Excellency.
This finally ties up my point about Doms being made out of wet biscuits. Why is that so difficult? Keck provides the muscle while the Dom's High Priest shares his ability to extend lives by draining it from victims. Seeing how, given plenty of sacrifices, this practically makes them immortal, it's hard to say for how long the Doms and the Alpha sections have been working together and how many planets they've bled dry. We take the picture and make our way to the transmitter room. With the conversation we overheard, and these few lines here, we now know for sure that Jade has some kind of power, and the Doms know her as Shawnee. Whatever this power is, the High Priest is willing to use the last of his strength to get it. Apparently the High Priest is pretty high maintenance because the hundreds of people he drained aren't enough to sustain him. The fact that Jade, though, is enough to save his life says a lot about how much of that nebulous power is inside of her. I mentioned earlier that the subtitles started desyncing, and it's really bad at this section. Iris 515 is a call to violence, so I guess maybe we are terrorists. Or freedom fighters if you're into euphemisms. Notice the blur as we walk past Paige. It's the Shawnee blur.
Shawnee, it's incredible. We just got an email from the chief. He's alive, Jade, alive. Paige! Very sneaky, the whole code under the shoe pit.
You found them? You didn't screw up my settings, I hope.
They're exactly as I found them. Stench and all. Paige, you were...
Dead, I know. But you saved me. You're the one that brought me back to life. You're not the one you think you are, Jade. There's always been a prodigious energy hidden deep inside you. Now it's coming to the surface, and you're starting to understand it.
Paige, the kids, they...
Yes, I know. Kidnapped too. They've taken them to the Great Crypt. The only way to get there is by using the landing strip. We'll have to come back in the ship, but we can't do anything for them right now. There's too few of us. We need help in order to attack the lunar base in full force.
The only way of obtaining the support of the Hylians is to follow Nino's plan. Wrap up the report and use the long-range transmitter to broadcast it.
Okay, let's get a move on.
Oh, they're so cute together. Paige tells Jade that she's always had some kind of power and she's learning to use it. While I'm not a fan of magical resurrection, this one is a little more interesting. The Dom's High Priest has the power to take life, while Jade has the power to give it. Imagine, instead of being the master over life and death, you're just the master over death. You'd feel pretty incomplete. How frustrating would it be to almost, but not quite, have absolute power? Extremely, at least in my experience.
Recovering, I know how it feels. I spent 16 hours of that machine. I thought I'd never get out.
I've been in it for 3 weeks.
I honestly don't know whether that's a literal 3 weeks or not. It's unclear over how much time the plot actually takes place.
Hey, wait a minute. That's the beluga. He managed to get the old girl up and running.
You kidding? I hardly had anything to do. You must have spent a lot of time on her.
I like the line a lot. While it is an accomplishment to get the pearls needed to buy new parts, we did really only have to put the thingamajig in the whatchamacallit. It's nice to give Paige that little bit of extra credit here since he's been gone for so long. This time we can open the door, but are greeted by a 60mm cannon. Just one cannon, and we can easily run circles around it. Their security is atrocious. And now we're finally here. We have the pictures and are only a few steps away from the transmitting machine thing. We get help from the governor one last time to access the console.
Transmitter alignment. Set target. Okay, enter data. It's up to you now, Jade.
Okay.
Data not recognized. Protected system. Logging. 10,
They're blocking the controls.
9, 8,
No problemo, I take care of that.
6,
Amigos, Segundo el Magnifico is going to show you who is the best.
2, 1. System blocked. Nice job, Magnifico. More like Secundo El Major Screw-Up, King of the Cretins, Pope of the Peanut.
Silenzio, my little piglet. Look,
Opening system data. Hello, General Secundo. At your service.
I have una amiga who would like to broadcast a little report. Set up an alignment on 2.1.3, por favor, mia bella.
Yes, sir, General. Data loaded. Broadcasting.
Has reared its ugly head on your planet. With help from those traitors from the Iris Network, our enemy, the Doms, have broken through our protective borders and infiltrated your city. Enough is enough!
Amigos, señores, señoras, y of course, señoritas. Keep open your eyes, si tutti quanti. I no going to be wasting your time with big speeches. I just wanting to show you the whole big picture. Los Alpha Section are traitors, banditos, impostors, rascals, wooden nickels.
Look at these photos that we have taken. The Alpha Sections are the accomplices of the DOMS forces.
The Alpha Sections are the ones who've been kidnapping the Hylians and taking them to the Doms. Once the victims arrive on the moon, they're drained of all their energy and die.
Since the beginning, we've been manipulated and deceived. Stop listening to the lies that the Alpha Sections are telling you.
Down with the Alpha Sections!
Down with the Alpha Section!
Revolution!
Et voilà!
The kids are still on the Dom's base. We have to go back for them.
For the time being, we'd better evacuate the sector.
Nice strategy, soldier, but a bit late. Goodbye. Auto destruction procedure engaged.
We get a confirmation that Segundo is in fact Spanish because only Spanish people can mispronounce your name so hard the spelling changes, and I'm not bitter. I love that the Alphas have put up more screens to propaganda just a little harder. There's not much to say about this cutscene. It does establish that we now have the support of all Hylians, but that's unrealistic because 50% of any planet's population is dumber than average and will ignore all evidence, but this is supposed to be an uplifting moment, so the devs decided to make the right choice by excluding alpha truthers. We're in a terrible hurry, but hashtag save the K-Bubs doesn't let us. We also receive an email from the Hylian Word and
the truth has finally been revealed by our trustworthy colleagues from the Iris Network. The Hylian people have joined forces to drive the Alpha sections out of Hylis. Once again, the honorable journalistic profession was able to show that it had a preponderant role in the history.
those piece of shit, bottom-feeding, spineless shit for brains out. It is pretty funny though. I wonder what bandwagon they'll jump onto next.
Come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly.
Tractor beam activated!
Ah! They've got us in their tractor beam!
We're up against General Keck now, in a boss fight that is very reminiscent of an old-school Star Fox battle, which is only ever a good thing. The boss has a whole bunch of different attack patterns that challenge you to avoid attacks while lining up shots. It has nothing to do with the core gameplay of sneaking and melee combat, but it's an extremely enjoyable, albeit easy, final boss for your hovercraft. Using the skills we've acquired in the slaughterhouses, we open up a way into the spider where we're shocked by the world's cheekiest cable. There's 3 guards waiting for us. It's a bit of a messy fight, but with our combined forces we make it through. We're finally face to face with General Keck.
What were you hoping for, huh? Everyone you ever loved is already dead. Your mother and father, the pig, and all those little brats. We've sucked them dry of all their fluids so that we could live longer. He's looking for you. He's been on your trail for centuries. Your days are numbered. May the angels of darkness rise to glory.
He says that Jade's parents are already dead, which means he must have known them. We know from the trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2 that Jade used to work with the Alpha sections, so this could have all kinds of implications, but there's no real evidence in any direction in this game. I like that we see Keck in his jetpack. It looks like he tried to escape from the spider as it crashed, but was trapped by the debris. We get a confirmation that the Doms reward Alphas with extended lifespans, and learn that the Dom's priest has been looking for Shawnee for centuries. When has anyone ever said the phrase, "May the angels of darkness rise to glory," without questioning which side they're on? This line is kind of insane. Suddenly there's angels? I mean, what is this, the ending of Shenmue 2? At first I assumed that Angels of Darkness refers to the Doms, but what kind of angel would be a priest? Kind of seems like a downgrade. So that potentially means that even the puppeteer seemingly behind it all, the High Priest, is actually serving a higher power. I also really hope that there will be more spoken Doms in the prequel, because I will decode it the second we get our hands on a Rosetta Stone. Despite not having any obvious injuries, Keck dies. If I had to guess, the High Priest took as much of the energy back from him as he could, seeing how he's low and needs to preserve as much as he can.
We have to get back to the base. All the prisoners are still in there.
I heard some voices out there. Is there someone else still alive?
No, there's no one left.
When meeting up with her companions, Jade does not want to talk about what she just learned. The water freaks out and we're setting course for the landing pad. We're greeted by an entire swarm of Dom's fighters. Their aim is terrible and they're easy to destroy, which is a shame because had they been a real challenge, having the army arrive and help you fight them off would have been a lot more impactful. Since this is the last time we're in the ship anyway, it wouldn't have been a problem for it to always take a bunch of damage before the Hylians get there. As they distract the enemy, we land. Double H realizes he's in a silly video game and we descend into a last-minute exposition dump.
Served your master well, Johnny. You alone have brought the Hylians to me. They have followed you blindly.
Miss Jade?
Dorthgal Parkai.
Ah! It's a trap! The controls aren't responding anymore.
You are not who you think you are. The pig has hidden your origins from me.
Jade, no! Don't listen to him!
You are the source of my powers, the instrument of my strength. They took you away in the hope of destroying me, but I have survived, feeding me with only the most miserable of sacrifices. They made you human, but you are not like them. You are mine, Johnny, and I am going to kill the human part of you.
Jade!
Johnny Dom Yendra!
The High Priest does that thing that bad guys do where they say that everything went according to plan. Specifically, he says that Jade served him, her master, well in bringing the Hylians to him. We learned that Shawnee was part of the priest at some point until she/it was taken away from him. This must have happened several centuries ago, so unless Shawnee can exist without a host, Jade was not the first to have been given its powers. The song that plays during the final battle is titled Sins of the Father, which could mean one of two things or a combination of both. It's referring to the sins committed by the high priest, and father is used in its symbolic meaning when addressing a priest. 2, it's a reference to sins committed by Jade's father, for example, stealing Shawnee and putting it into the body of Jade. We have no idea how Shawnee works, so all we can do is speculate. We also learned that Shawnee can be taken after killing the host, which is interesting. The high priest states that Shawnee was taken away from him in order to destroy him. Seeing how Shawnee can give life, he most likely used to be immortal. As such, he would fear nothing more than death once his immortality is taken away, which explains his willingness to kill thousands to keep himself alive. At least that's one way of looking at it. And since I don't know where to put it, you see, it's really clever because Jade is green and the Dom's bad mojo is green because they're all the same, and like green is the color of nature and life, but also poison in video games. We are swarmed by a lot of Dom's sarcophagi, which all die in one hit. This part of the finale is more for spectacle than anything else. You could interpret it as Jade channeling Shawnee's powers to destroy the Doms, but Double H also one-shots them, so their health values are just set to 1. The big boy himself attacks using laser beams emitted from his mouth and homing shots created by the statue behind him. Hi, this is future me. I have a lot of new information regarding what the deal with the Shawnee Priest creature power dynamic is, and I recorded all of this months ago. I tried modifying the script and re-recording some stuff, but it's a massive headache and just not practical. Instead, I'm going to put together a whole separate video on who or what Shawnee even is. For now, just keep in mind that when I call it a statue, I'm actually referring to a creature that is basically Shawnee. And since the Dom's High Priest is under Evil Shawnee's control, whatever the High Priest says are all Shawnee's words. So the High Priest is basically just a disturbing ventriloquist dummy. So when I say the priest is unhappy, I'm basically saying the creature is unhappy because they're the same character. So, back to the past. Back to the past! We finally see why Doms collect materia crystals. To make extremely fragile barriers that can be shattered by launching a page clone into them. Oh, there's page clones that you can slow-mo aim? Haven't seen that mechanic in a while, but it's a memorable enough part of the game to deserve being in the final battle. We finally get a chance to face the High Priest in CQC. He's by far the fastest enemy in the game, though not exactly the smartest. Attack in one of the 4 cardinal directions or dodge out of the way if he teleports above you. The quick pace ensures that this doesn't get boring, even if it's quite easy. It's interesting to see the priest and or the statue have the ability to create clones this quickly. This could just be a gameplay contrivance, but it's also possible that DOMs were somehow involved in the creation of the first clones, either by helping humans or by being studied by them. However, it's also possible these clones are hallucinations. The High Priest continues to rely heavily on manipulation, as the replicas of Double H will try to talk Jade into giving up. What's interesting is the fact that as the clones die, Dome sarcophagi take their place. This could either mean that they inhabited and controlled physical clones of Double H, or were simply made to look and sound like him by the priest. Either way, standing up to your false friends shatters their facade and reveals the ugly truth. For such a small detail, it's an incredibly fitting element for the final battle. The priest enables Shawnee Blur in the options menu, which also reverses our controls, as Jade, Shawnee, and the priest are all fighting over her body. With Shawnee's power combating the priest's control, the Dom sarcophagi no longer appear as Jade's friends. I'm not entirely sure why the High Priest decided now is a good time to get in big stick range, but he does it anyway. He's a lot faster this time around, plus you have to remember to point in the opposite direction. If he knocks you down, you have to start mashing attack immediately, because otherwise he'll get you again the split second you get up. This line I find incredibly interesting. So far, the priest only ever said that Shawnee was taken away from him, but this line might suggest the opposite. What if at first there was only one Shawnee? Shawnee was an all-powerful force inhabiting human bodies. After some major, catastrophic incident caused by Shawnee's power, probably born from a strong emotion like anger or fear, the people around Shawnee's host were afraid this might happen again. So somehow they found a way to separate Shawnee's positive and negative emotions. The good Shawnee would then be passed on from generation to generation, while they hoped the evil Shawnee would wither and die as it didn't have the power to give life. This would mean the priest is either evil Shawnee or evil Shawnee's host. Let's call them the Order of Good Shawnee, realized too late that the priest was not only able to keep himself alive, but actually grow in power and influence as he consumed more and more people. That's why the Order would choose hosts that don't draw attention to themselves, like baby girls, and hide them away so the priest wouldn't find them. This is why Paige traveled to the quiet, peaceful planet of Hillis. This theory would explain why Jade never gets angry or scared throughout the whole game. Good Shawnee does not have those emotions anymore. It might also mean that the real reason the priest wants to be reunited with Shawnee isn't because he wants absolute power, but because his existence is miserable. He doesn't experience joy, only anger. He never feels at peace, and he constantly has to kill and steal just to stay alive. There's only 2 ways out of this: reunite with Shawnee or die. If this means what I think it means, the High Priest suddenly becomes a much deeper, much more tragic antagonist, as he never chose this path for himself but was born into it. This line is clearly meant to make Jade doubt herself. If she is Shawnee and the priest and Shawnee used to be one and the same, that would mean Jade is Shawnee is the priest. It's a cliche for villains to say that they and the hero are the same, but in this case they actually literally are. The battle ends as we ram our big stick through his central eye. The priest explodes into pure white energy. It's the opposite of the screen fading to black when Jade dies during gameplay. Good and evil Shawnee are reunited, and with the statue serving as a catalyst, they give Jade the power she needs to bring back the Hylians who fell victim to the war. Except for that guy. The song that plays during the scene is titled Redemption. It's either referring to evil Shawnee's power now being used to help undo the damage it has caused, or Jade putting an end to the alpha sections her past self worked with. It's a very powerful, well-directed cutscene, and the song is just magic. The credits roll and let us enjoy some more of the soundscape and music of Hillis. Beyond Good and Evil is a game that has rightfully earned a place in the hearts of almost everyone who played it, which combines rewarding exploration, easy-to-learn stealth and combat, excellent presentation, and surprisingly mature subject matter into a piece of art that anyone of any age can and should enjoy. Its world-building is subtle, but wonderfully consistent, and the lore goes as deep as you want it to. And I know this sounded like the end of the video, but after credit scenes are a thing, we get to see some photos taken by Jade. They show some cute character interactions like Fen sitting on Double H's shoulders and another Fen chasing him with a big stick, probably playing the Hylian version of cowboys and Native Americans. It all points toward Jade managing to live a happy, normal life despite her newfound powers. There isn't a single Hylian in this game I hate, so it's nice to see all of them happy. Oh hey, Paige! Oh, Paige is shown to have a Dom's infection in his left hand, which is the hand Jade focused her energy on to bring him back from the dead. Now, either that was just coincidence and the infection was a leftover from the torture, or the incomplete Shawnee causes the Dom's infection when giving life, and that's how the Doms came into existence to begin with. It's very possible that the Doms used to be normal people before working for the High Priest, who possibly also used to be human in exchange for a longer life. Since both Shawnees are functionally similar, it would only be logical for good Shawnee's power to have the same or a similar side effect. We can only hope that the complete Shawnee's power does not cause Dom's infections, because if it did, most of the planet would now be a ticking time bomb. When Beyond Good and Evil 2 was first announced, I was a little disappointed to hear it would be a prequel. I wanted to know what will happen to Paige after all. But after this stupidly in-depth look at Beyond Good and Evil 1, I'm actually a lot more excited to find out about Paige's, Jade's, and the Alpha Section's past, and Dom's would be nice too. I know that given the recent trends in the AAA game industry, it's very irresponsible to be hyped for a game before reviews are in. But Ubisoft Montpellier have not made a bad game yet, and Ubisoft's PC ports have become excellent over the years. So, wow. 51 pages of script. If you stuck around till the very end, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. Feel free to discuss your crazy conspiracy theories in the comments. And hey, if you want me to talk too much about a different game, liking and subscribing will encourage that. I'm thinking maybe some of the Raymans, maybe Zombie U, some other Montpellier stuff, because they're fascinating. Anyway, good night.
Sir.